going undefeated and winning the national championship.
Streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and the Tide 100.9 app. Here is your host of Off the Edge, Jacob Harrison.
Disappear like man was never here. Live machine, our future supreme. Your man overthrown. Spit out the ball.
Hello there. Good morning. Welcome in to Off the Edge, Tide 100.9. It's a great day to talk Alabama football. We'll do that for the next 56 minutes here on your home for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. You can check out the show on the Tide 100.9 app, available on your Android and Apple devices as well. Streaming live on Tide109.com and on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Off the Edge 109. Greatly appreciate likes, shares, subscribes. You can also join the show there in the comment sections of whatever stream you choose to join us with, whether that's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Off the Edge 109 as well. Let me also tell you about Alabama Vintage. Alabama Vintage, AlabamaVTG.com, at Alabama VTG on the Instagram account. Great way to get ready for the season is to head on in there at 2210 University Boulevard under the Crimson awning across from City Hall and find something that can remind you of the good old days. Maybe a callback to the 1992 National Championship, the last time Alabama and Miami played each other. There's all sorts of memorabilia from that incredible season. It's all there inside Alabama Vintage. And regardless of the era, maybe you want to call back even further, or you want to kind of reminisce over the beginning years of the Nick Saban dynasty as well. Incredible items throughout the store, whether you need apparel, hats, shoes, vintage t-shirts, jerseys of all kinds, or you need that memorabilia that can help fill out the man cave or just fill out your home, whatever the case may be. Charlie's got it in store for you there. Alabama Vintage at Alabama VTG on the Instagram account as well, where you can find the brand ambassadors for 15% off your order at AlabamaVTG.com. Bryant, you've disappointed me. I did what I said I was going to do. I've watched both parts of the U. I finished the second part last night. All great. And you come in here saying on Wednesday you're going to wear a Miami University hat, or University of Miami, excuse me. And that hat doesn't have a lick of green on it or a lick of orange. What's here? What's going on, man? You letting me down.
If we're being honest, I forgot. It totally slipped my mind.
Raise your hand if you're shocked.
hey, I'll tell you what. I'll double down on Saturday for Saturday Morning Showdown. Game day. I will wear the Miami hat. You know why? Not because I'm picking them outright, but I'm picking them to cover. So I'm going to wear my Hurricanes hat, and it's going to be a dandy old time. And you and Kendall and Mason can make all the fun you want to me, but I know that that the Hurricanes, the U, for all the stream people, the U is going to cover. So I'm going to wear Miami hat on Saturday.
You down. I will say, excited for the game, excited to get kind of that perspective. I mean, it's not so long ago that so many things went, straight downhill for the University of Miami. And there was a lot of things in part two that I didn't know. I didn't know about this, Zemo, basically, but, this guy that laundered all this money and took advantage of the program and all that sort of thing. Absolutely insanity. The seventh floor rap band was that was also interesting. Yeah, seventh floor crew. That was if you would have told me going in to just take a hint at a Miami alumni that was involved in that, the last person I would have guessed was Greg Olson. The last person Greg Olsen. Are you like? I have a hard enough time believing that the vanilla guys like Ken Dorsey and those kind of guys were quarterbacking this team, but Greg Olsen to be involved
What's
in
your
that.
name? G-Red.
Yeah, that's about the only lyric out of his little blurb that you could repeat on this radio station. We do have standards. We do have standards. At 11:15, my good friend Joey Blackwell, he'll join us and help us preview Miami and Alabama. So much to look into with this game and a lot to be excited about. I'm kind of with Gary a little bit. When I heard Gary give out his score prediction, it had me thinking, well, Friday's getting close. Saturday's even, is getting close too. I got to come up with a score prediction that I think is valuable. We've been talking about Alabama and Miami so much that we're almost over analyzing it. We're getting to a point where you feel like you've had all the talk that you can handle. And I talk for a living. Like it's getting to that point. Like it's September. It's Alabama. It's Miami. It's college football in Atlanta in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And we just it's time for the pregame. It's time for the action. It's time to get in between the trenches, in between the lines, and go to war and go to work with these guys. And I got to say, that being said, I think, pretty sure Miami's done with all their media availability. Alabama's done with theirs. And what's been very impressive is I've been watching a lot of De'Aaron King in the media, get a feel for where his confidence and his mentality is at. Because we watch Bryce Young, we listen to Bryce Young, and we say, well, that guy is incredibly mature, right? That guy is he sounds confident, he feels ready, feels like the moment's not going to be too big for him, like he's going to be able to go out there and work. But on the other side, you're dealing with a guy coming in sixth year of college football after tearing his ACL last year to close the season in the Cheez-It Bowl against Oklahoma State. A lot of doubt in whether or not he was going to be even ready for this ball game, which I think was a silly doubt because this is we're in another realm of reality with sports medicine. Like these guys are coming back super fast. And De'Aaron King, down there at Miami, he's got just as good of facilities and just as good of help to be able to come back fast, and that's what he's done. And when it comes to what he's had to say, his ability to show that respect, but also display that confidence, because it wasn't so long ago where he was like, I think we're going to finish number one. We're going to go undefeated. This, that, and the other on the Stephen A. Smith show, and it was, well, of course you're going to feel that way. You're not going to go in just be like, well, Alabama might kill us, but we'll try to win our other 11 games and hopefully get to the ACC championship and meet them again in the playoffs. And hopefully we don't have to play Alabama because they're really good. Maybe somebody else can take care of Alabama for us. That's not the mentality. That's not the mentality anywhere. It's especially not the mentality at Miami. It's especially not the mentality for one of the best players in the sport heading into the season as well. But he still showed the respect where it was due in his final media appearance before the game, saying that Nick Saban is the greatest of all time, heaping praise onto the defense, mentioning Will Anderson, mentioning Chris Allen, mentioning Christian Harris, mentioning Josh Jobe, and understanding there's a lot of talent on the Alabama defense. He's not going in blindly confident without understanding what's before him. He's going in understanding this is going to be hard. The thing is De'Aaron King can handle that, right? I've talked about it a while. Playmakers make plays. Great players do what they've got to do in the situation. It's a matter of if he has enough help. And I don't think he does. I think he has got extremely good players around him. And that would be enough against the 2018 Alabama defense. It really would. This would be a very tight game against the 2018 Alabama defense, because Alabama, if Alabama, you take 2018 Alabama, throw it up against 2021 Miami, that is a shootout. That is, I think the game would be a little bit more similar to what we saw with Alabama and Oklahoma. And I know Alabama beat the brakes off Oklahoma in the first half, but the game did get a little bit closer in the second half, and that's kind of the impression I would get of this game. You notice I still said Alabama would still do their thing. Like, I'm not you just got to analyze it from both sides. That's the only thing. But you look down the road, you look down and you see what the Alabama Crimson Tide brings to the table. Everything they've got on paper, matched up with Miami outside of the quarterback battle because of experience. Alabama beats the brakes off them. Alabama's superior in every way on paper. So it's going to be interesting to see how Miami tries to circumvent that. You can go in with the confidence that you've got the scrambling quarterback. Listen, a lot of dual threat quarterbacks have beaten Alabama, but a lot of dual threat quarterbacks have also lost to Alabama. Kellen Mond did not have a winning record against Alabama, despite putting 200 on them in Bryant-Denny Stadium one year. Justin Fields didn't stand a chance last year. You can keep going down the line, and it's not the case. You don't get an extra 14 points on the board just because you have a scrambling quarterback. You still have to put in the work as well. We'll continue the conversation. We'll take our break, come back, speak with Joey Blackwell, get his thoughts on the game. Just 3 Trent Richardson days away from Alabama and Miami in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, to kick this baby off. We'll be back off the edge, Tide 100.9.
Touchdown! Alabama wins!
The Alabama football countdown clock is driven by Crawford Insurance, Tuscaloosa's low-cost auto insurer. Call 752-6489 for a free quote today.
Roll Tide!
There are 3 days until Alabama football.
Dominate!
Let's just take that out of your mouth.
At Ping's Pre-K, the growing enrollment is no play date.
Toilet is not a closet.
She needs more teachers certified in early childhood development.
Is it nap time yet? Lunch?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The real estate market is always tough, but this market, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. When the average home stays on the market just 24 days and houses routinely go for more than the listing price, who you work with matters. Realtors have the expertise, local knowledge, and personal touch to give you a competitive advantage throughout the entire home buying process. And that's something an ordinary agent could never do. So make sure your agent is a Realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live, in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa Weather.
A mixture of clouds and sunshine, the chance of a few scattered showers and thunderstorms through the evening hours. The high today 87, cooler late tonight, the low 64. Beautiful tomorrow and Friday, sunny both days and not as humid. Highs between 86 and 89. I'm James Spain on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 87 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
We aren't going anywhere. Off the Edge is available in the podcast center on Tide100.9.com.
Saban taking part in the SEC coaches teleconference this morning. Asked about LeBron Ray and Kendall Randolph, both key pieces for the Alabama Crimson Tide in the trenches. Both guys dealing with injuries during training camp. Saban says both guys will be available for the game. Both guys are doing very well. very exciting to hear that, LeBron Ray is going to be able to get in the game and do his thing. And as far as Jaleel Billingsley, Saban quoted as saying, "We're just trying to get Jaleel to be a very responsible, disciplined person as well as a responsible, disciplined player." Of course, Billingsley listed as the third tight end in the initial depth chart. But, how long do you really think that's going to last? I don't think it's going to last very long at all. I wouldn't be surprised if him being the third string tight end lasts one drive against Miami and then he's back out there, because at the end of the day, you still have, good players got to play. You make your point. And I think Saban's done a good job of that. Let's go out to the phone line. Welcome in Bama Central's Joey Blackwell at Blackwell Sports on the Twitter account. Joey, man, how you doing this morning?
Doing all right, Jacob. It's good to see a beautiful day outside compared to all the rain we've been getting. So it's a good day so far.
Yeah, you got that right. Just trying to stay out of the way of any hurricanes, try to just make it through September and no tornadoes or anything like that. And let's just enjoy football season. We're 3 days away from Alabama and Miami getting together. Talking about Billingsley there, though, third string tight end behind Cameron Latu, behind Major Tennyson. It's kind of bizarre in that space to, think of him being put in that spot. Of course, we don't know a lot of details as to why Jalil's been in the doghouse with Saban for so long. But that being the case, am I right in saying that, as one of the better athletes on the team, that it shouldn't be too terribly long before he's that tight end one again?
No, I can agree with that. I think Billingsley has the potential to be one of the best tight ends in college football this year. And, obviously he missed the first few practices. That was one of the reasons he fell to the bottom of the depth chart so early on. But then, of course, apparently there's been some discipline issues between Saban and Billingsley. So hopefully they get those sorted out. I think that a player like Billingsley is too important to keep on the third string for the long haul. I think he could even see playing time this Saturday, depending on how the game goes. It just depends on, if they need him. If Alabama can pull out early, maybe not. But if they need him in the second half, I can definitely see them putting him in there. But, I was talking on the All Things Bama podcast yesterday, which is our podcast at Bama Central, and Tyler Martin was talking about, the talent that Billingsley has and why he should, start. And I always think about, things like Charles, when Nick Saban had an interview with Charles Barkley several years back, and Barkley was talking about, players, that need disciplinary action, which we don't know if that's actually the case, but this is what we assume right now because we haven't really been able to peek behind the curtain to see what's going on. But when Charles Barkley had the interview with Nick Saban, they talked about how Saban expressed that, with players, it's best to keep them on the team and kind of walk them through these issues and get them, the best help that they need. And so I think that's what we have going on here. I think that Billingsley is going to probably start by game 3, but that all depends on how things are going early on in the season.
Joey, do you think Kendall Randolph, his injury, kind of helps ease some of the fears that Alabama fans might have about this offensive line, especially after Darian Dalcourt kind of pushed Chris Owens for the starting center job, and talks of Chris Owens moving to right tackle to kind of accommodate that? How do you kind of see that, unfolding within 3 days, try to take on this Miami front four?
Well, Kendall Randolph being back is, of course, huge for the offensive line. I was talking to a friend yesterday about how, last year the offensive line had a lot of experience, but it didn't have as much depth. This year it lacks experience, but it has a ton of depth. And when you have that depth, and you're down your right tackle in the very first game, that's not a good start. So having Kendall Randolph back, with Latham and Damian George behind him, it's a good start to the season. Of course, we were also, like you mentioned, LeBron Ray, we were more concerned about him than Randolph because Saban kind of alluded earlier this week that Randolph was doing really well. But now that we know that LeBron Ray's groin injury seems to be doing better, he's going to contribute, I assume, heavily on the defensive line, barring that the groin injury isn't still bothering him. So really good news to hear that from Saban this morning. And Crimson Tide fans should be excited that these players are going to be out, because there's no doubt that these are two experienced players that should contribute on Saturday.
Especially with LeBron Ray. I mean, it's nice that he's back. I don't, if I remember right, looking at the depth chart, LeBron Ray not listed as a starter. Justin Boygby is. But that's still, with all the depth on that defensive line, that should allow him to work towards staying healthy and work towards putting together some solid film and getting ready for the spring and his next step. I know like the focus is right now for Ray and trying to repeat as a national champion, but for him the biggest thing is just to stay healthy, and the way this defense is formed, it should help him do that.
Yeah, exactly. LeBron Ray, of course, all Alabama fans know that he's had a really tough history to, throughout his college career in regards to injuries, and this was just the latest drop in the pool. That's definitely one of his number one focuses this year, is to remain healthy, because it doesn't matter what you're able to put up, coming off the bench. If you can't consistently stay healthy, that's something that NFL draft scouts really look at, is not only your skills, but also how's the player's ability to stay healthy and keep from being injured. So fortunately, with him being back, I don't expect him to start, as the depth chart also shows, this Saturday, but he should contribute off the bench. He has missed a lot of practice, so he's definitely going to need to be kind of eased back into things. But it looks like he was able to practice a little bit this week, maybe lightly, but fortunately, we'll see him, be able to return to full practices these next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll see him back into that starting rotation sometime in the next, early on in the season.
Joey, looking at this offense heading into the game with Miami, a lot is made of, the inexperience at quarterback kind of leads a lot of fans to think that Alabama is going to try to run the ball a little bit more. I actually think it's, not necessarily the case due to Bill O'Brien's history and the way this offense is made up. But regardless, we're still all very curious how this running back core is going to work, because Alabama is still going to lean on the run. Alabama is still going to have a high percentage of run plays. And with four guys that can get the job done, it's going to, in different ways, it's going to be interesting to kind of see who contributes, who kind of excites you out of that running back core, especially in week one with the way that, Miami is so weak at linebacker. There's a number of different ways you can attack them in the running game.
Well, first and foremost, of course, you can't talk about Alabama running backs talk about Brian Robinson. We saw flashes of greatness from him throughout the season last year when he came off the bench, but particularly in the national championship game in the second half when, they reduced Najee's carries and Brian Robinson was able to really get the job done and really show his power and his burst, his burst. But who excites me the most though is seeing Trey Sanders. I mean, the Trey Sanders, of course, is really electric. I'm seeing him, coming off of his, of course, really his bad car crash last year and being able to recover over the spring and so quickly be able to rise, and be listed as a 2 with Jace McClellan. I'm really excited to see what he can do because, of course, when you're injured, especially in a thing like a car wreck, you can still work out and still do rehab and you can look great. And you can even perform drills on the field and still look great. But really, when you have contact, that's when coaches really start to truly see how a player has developed. Because you might relinquish with a hit, you might be afraid to hit others. And Trey Sanders has done nothing but impress in practices. That has apparently not been an issue whatsoever for him. So him being able to get over that big, mental hurdle is huge for him. So I'm really excited. If I were to point to a running back that I'm most excited to see this year, it would have to be Trey Sanders and see how he's developed since last season.
I agree, man. Trey Sanders is my guy. Ryan Fowler asked me the other day who I thought was going to lead this team in rushing. And it's Trey Sanders for me. He looks good off the hip injury that he sustained last year in the car accident. And I like his game more than anybody else's. He may not have the speed of McClellan and Roydell, and he may not have the power of B-Rob, but I mean, he's such a versatile back and he's so good in the open field. I really like what he brings to the table. But looking on the offense for the Hurricanes, everything starts with number one, De'Aaron King. Well-spoken in the media, liked what he had to say about coach, liked the respect that he kind of gave Alabama's defense as well. But one of the biggest questions, and one that I have to ask a lot of people, is does De'Aaron King, sure, he's going to do a lot on his own. He's going to have some breakout runs. He's going to make some fantastic throws. But does he have enough pieces around him, whether it's on his offensive line or in his weapons, Does he have enough around him to contend with Alabama against one of the most stacked defenses in the country?
Well, not talking about King directly, but if you're talking about the pieces around him, I think they're one of Miami's strongest aspects on offense, aside from Derek King, is their offensive line. They have a really, really experienced offensive line that comes back. I believe I heard you say yesterday it's 190 starts, I believe, split between the starting five.
Yep.
So they have a lot of experience on that offensive line, and that could give Alabama's defensive line a little bit of trouble early on. That being said, if Alabama can't just simply overpower them, but I think that will, if you give Derek King time to roll out of the pocket to extend plays, that could spell some trouble for Alabama's defense. That being said, I think with Alabama's linebacker core, I think they're going to be providing a lot of pressure and flushing him out of the pocket. So he might be able to extend plays, but he might not be able to have enough time to get the ball down the field like he needs to. So I really think that King obviously is the factor here. If Miami is able to beat Alabama, which I don't think they will, but if they do, Derek King is definitely going to be the key piece to that, and I think his offensive line will play a heavy supporting role in that.
No doubt about it. That offensive line is pretty good, very experienced. But you kind of touched on it a little bit there, and it made me think all this time, almost throughout the entire Nick Saban era, the kryptonite has seemed to be dual threat quarterbacks. You go Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, a whole lot of guys that have been successful against Alabama have been dual threat quarterbacks. It's not the ultimate kryptonite. Of course, the most recent victory for Alabama was against Justin Fields. Jake Fromm always played well against Alabama, never beat him. But when you look at the way this defense is built now, with the speed at off-ball linebacker, Christian Harris, Henry To'o, with the way the defensive backfield is built, lockdown corners can kind of help in that regard, and the athleticism on the edge. Do you think that this defense is built to kind of combat what has always plagued Alabama in having to deal with these scrambling quarterbacks?
I think it absolutely is. You have speed across the entire defense. When you just look down the line, you have Malachi Moore, Jordan Battle. You have players like Josh Jobe, Jalen Armour-Davis, but then as linebackers, Henry To'o, Christian Harris, Will Anderson Jr. It's just and those are just all the starters. We're not even talking about the guys that are going to rotate in there. And just how fast this defense is. I think this, Alabama has learned from its mistakes over the past few seasons in having to deal with mobile threat quarterbacks. And I think that this is a defense that's kind of catered to combat fields. And we've seen, not fields, excuse me. It was catered to combat fields, but now, we have Derek King. Sorry for the slip up there. But I think that we're going to see this defense be able to stifle the Miami passing attack. When we got to speak to Will Anderson and Christian Harris yesterday, both of them were talking about how King's going to present the challenge, to this defense. But at the same time, they were very calm and collected. They seem to have done a lot of studying. No doubt they've watched a lot of film on him, and they've done a lot of preparation. And if you can prepare well for a player like King and be able to defend him well, you can defend pocket passers, and you can defend other quarterbacks that have, maybe an easier style to defend. So I think this defense is fully prepared. It could give them trouble early on as they adjust, because Alabama, of course, doesn't really have a dual threat quarterback up to the profile of King that they can practice against. So it's going to be an adjustment when the game starts. But I think by the end of the first quarter, we're going to see this defense make some adjustments, and I think they're going to have them locked down after the second quarter.
Talking to Joey Blackwell at Blackwell Sports, beat writer, all things Alabama sports for the Sports Illustrated affiliate of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Bama Central. Joey, shame on me, because yesterday I did the one thing you're never supposed to do, and that's assume that Christian Harris was the last player we were going to talk to in the media sessions. And so I missed out on my opportunity to talk to my favorite player, Will Anderson. But we did get to hear some interesting things from him, including that he gets hyped for these ball games, listening to 90s R&B. Our good friend Tony Sacalasa, kind of brings it up and brings it to the forefront. And does that kind of, to me, that, like, I know it's not like a big deal or whatever. Like, he's going to play his game or whatever, but this is a violent football player. He is a menace out there. And Javion Cohen kind of joked about it on Twitter. Imagine giving up a sack on this guy. and he's just out there singing Candy Rain, It's just the softest beats and the most chill vibes in the world. But regardless, I mean, Will Anderson set up for a great sophomore season, and he can get off to it this weekend in Atlanta.
Oh, absolutely. Will Anderson, one of my favorite personalities on the team this year. Just always, kind of a happy-go-lucky, easygoing mentality. But at the same time, when he steps on the football field, there's a reason they call him a Terminator, and that was something that he talked about yesterday. And they still call him that. And that's how the music thing came up. Was how does he switch from that easygoing, really fun and press conference nature to that that killer mentality. And Will Anderson, he already had an outstanding freshman year at Alabama, and he's primed to do even more this season as he takes on a larger role in that defense at Jack linebacker. And just been really impressed with. We didn't get to see a lot, unfortunately, as everybody knows. We were only able to go to a few practices early on, but from what we did see from him early on, he's looking really good. He's looking hungry. He's been willing to. He's been hungry to learn since he stepped foot on campus last year, and we've only seen that continue to grow and him grow and develop. And I'm just excited to see what he can do this season, and no doubt he'll create a lot of problems for Miami on Saturday.
And one of the toughest tests that he's had in college football will be this weekend against this Miami offensive line. At left tackle, Zion Nelson. I know Chris Allen will probably get more reps against Zion than Will Anderson will. I shouldn't have done that to myself. But regardless, this is a fine test for him to show that he can be a pass rusher that can be looked at in that same kind of category that Kayvon Thibodeau is up in Oregon. But looking at the Miami defense, like I mentioned earlier, the linebackers are kind of weak, but it's their front four has always been a strength of theirs. They do lose Gregory Rousseau, Jalen Phillips to the NFL. Rousseau didn't play at all last year anyway, but that's kind of been, the weakness, like I mentioned earlier, is kind of that front four. But Bubba Bolden is a guy that plays at safety for them and kind of plays all over the field, is able to play in the middle, play deep, get in the nickel corner as well, and do a lot of exciting things for them. But when you look at Miami's defense, what are the kind of things that they're going to have to overcome in order to make this a competitive game against Alabama, even with all the question marks that might surround the Crimson Tide offense nationally?
Well, the defensive end for Miami might get attention, but the linebacker might be the early concern, with some shuffling that they have going on, with they have freshman Corey Flagg, and, who could push Bradley Jennings. You have Gilbert Frierson, who's able to play, who was a safety playing linebacker last year. But, also with the secondary, the secondary is healthy and they're ready to roll. It's going to be really good, which could provide Bryce Young some trouble, this being his first, his first start as a college quarterback. But, there are some bumps and bruises that kept some parts out this spring, but they should be fine. Bubba Bolden, as you mentioned him, he's their leading tackler, is back at one of the safety spots. Amari Carter will play a role. It's just the corners are deep and they have a nice rotation if it's needed. DJ Ivey is a good hitter. Tyreek Stevenson from Georgia, and they just got a lot going on. This is not a typical ACC defense that Alabama's used to playing to. This is a fairly staunch and deep defense that could definitely present some problems. They do, like you said, still have a lot of question marks, but this early in the season, they have some players back from injury that could definitely contribute.
No doubt about it. We'll circle back to Miami and Alabama in just a second, just to get kind of your final impressions and predictions, maybe a little bit. Mac Jones being named the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots, though, deserves some attention. You covered it a lot over there for Bama Central as well. How shocked were you when Mac was not only named the starter, but that the Patriots cut Cam Newton as well as Brian Hoyer? They have shown absolute confidence in Mac Jones before week one when he's set to take on his former, who he used to back up, Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins.
I wasn't necessarily shocked that Mac was named the starter. I mean, I thought he was going to be a starter before the second or third week of the season. I was shocked that they cut Cam Newton. Cam Newton's a guy, people forget he played in the Super Bowl. He is a quarterback that has a lot of valuable experience. And while he didn't perform to the Patriots' expectations last year, a lot of players for the Patriots didn't perform with the expectations last year. And cutting Cam Newton was definitely a surprise there. But, what better person to be named starter than Mac Jones? The kid has worked hard, and I encourage all of your listeners to, if they have time, to hop on Twitter or to hop on my story yesterday from Bama Central and look at what Butch Jones said about Mac Jones.
Yes.
That was an incredible and a great way to analyze, all the hard work that Mac has put in, playing for 3 years at Alabama on the bench, and then coming in, starting one season, and just the growth and the maturation that he's had, from his time at Alabama, and his ability to be drafted by a team with the Patriots with a really solid quarterback and be able to impress enough in the preseason to earn a starting job. So couldn't be happier for him. I know the Alabama players we talked to yesterday, we already mentioned Christian Harris and Will Anderson, but also Evan Neal all talked about how proud they were of him. And no doubt Saban and the rest of the team that we haven't talked to yet is also proud of him. So I'm really excited for him and looking forward to seeing him face Tua in week 1. That's definitely a must-watch TV on September 12th.
No doubt about it, and not just September 12th, but hopefully for many, many years to come. Hopefully Miami doesn't do anything stupid concerning Tua, and these two guys can be the franchise quarterbacks and give us a fun rivalry for the next 10 to 15 years. Alabama kind of needs it. It's been so long since you've had two Alabama guys even start in the NFL, let alone get the opportunity to play against each other. Kind of wild to think about when this time last year there were 0 starting quarterbacks from the University of Alabama, and this year we head in with 3, which is just under 10% of the league. Very, very exciting times indeed. And just so you know, just for reference, by the way, on that same subject, Alabama still has, I believe, 5 more players in the NFL than Ohio State. On 27 teams, your Seattle Seahawks are not one of them, Joey. You need to get these guys in line.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to call Pete Carroll, but he hasn't been answering my calls. So hopefully he'll listen to me eventually.
Well, get in contact with Russell and maybe he can patch you through.
All right. I'll shoot him a text when we get off.
Right. All right. So getting back to Atlanta, getting back to September 4th, what kind of are your final expectations, your final predictions? If you want to give a score, you can. If you want to hold off on that, that's your prerogative. But what are kind of your final expectations, final hopes for the Alabama Crimson Tide as they take on the Hurricanes this Saturday in Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
I think this team, just kind of pregame analysis on a Wednesday. I think that we're going to see the Alabama defense come out hot. I think we're going to see them, try their hardest to slow down and limit King's mobility early on. I think the defense is going to do just fine. However, on Alabama's offense, I do see them having a little bit of a sluggish start. They have only been playing each other, and so offenses typically need a few weeks to really get, reach their full potential. But I think by the middle of the second quarter, we'll see Alabama's offense begin to really, pick up some steam. I think it's going to be, I do pick, I have it, my current pick is I have Alabama winning 35-17. That's what I have it right now. I don't think Alabama's going to blow them out of the water per se. I think Derek King is able to, get at least a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown and a field goal. So I think Alabama's defense is going to limit them 17 points. That might make some Crimson Tide defensive fans a little upset out there. But we have to remember this is one of the best offenses they're going to face this season. So if they can hold Derek King to 17 points, I think they're going to do just fine this year.
Hey, that's I like 35-17. I really do. It's right there on the spread. You're not tempting Vegas too much. It's not too crazy, but there's a lot of fans in this fan base that knows that Pete Golding said the goal is to hold teams to 13 points per game. And if they give up even 14, it's not good enough. So 17 is really pushing it, Joey.
I'm not trying to get Pete Golding in hot water. I think allowing 17 points is just fine in my book, but I know a lot of people wouldn't agree with that.
Hey, Martin Houston and I and a few others have said 17 points is practically a shutout in today's football. So, hey, I'm right there with you. Joey Blackwell at Blackwell Sports, beat writer for Bama Central, the Sports Illustrated affiliate of all things Alabama Crimson Tide. Joey, I guess I'll talk to you again after your trip to Atlanta and after Alabama takes care of the Hurricanes, man. I always appreciate it.
Sounds great, Jacob. Looking forward to it. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Joey Blackwell at Blackwell Sports on the Twitter account. Be sure to go give him a follow and interact with his content as well. One of the best writers on the Alabama beat as well. We'll take a break, come back, start to close it down and look at kind of this. I almost closed out of the stream. That was dangerous. And look at the linebacking situation for the Miami Hurricanes and how exactly should Alabama attack that. If there's a weakness, expose it. But you've got so many avenues on how to do it. How do you do it? We'll discuss that and more here next on Off the Edge Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
Indeed helps you hire great people fast. Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Looking for a color change? Ask Sherwin-Williams. We've made it easy to try and buy color. Preview paint colors in your home with our Color Snap app. Then visit swsamples.com to have color chips delivered to your door for free. Or order peel and stick samples to try on your wall. When you're ready to paint, shop online or stop by your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store and get everything you need.
The best biscuits in town, made from scratch. Buttermilk biscuits, sandwiches, and bite-sized snacks, sausage, ham, chicken, and many more varieties. Get them freshly baked or pre-cooked and bake them yourself. Where? Nowhere else but the Biscuit Shop, Essex Square Shopping Center, Northport. TheBiscuitLady.com.
Recently, Total Wireless helped Garrett Dvorak throw a virtual baby shower for his wife, Ellie.
Just to see everyone's expressions, I don't have words for it.
Because when you move to Total Wireless, you can get amazing devices on 5G. And with unlimited plans starting at $25 a month per line for 4 lines, you could save up to $80 per month.
Total Wireless, you guys pulled through.
Total Wireless, do amazing. 5G capable device and SIM required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. Savings claim made when compared to 4-line postpaid plans of the leading carrier for 2021. See terms and conditions at TotalWireless.com.
At Navy Federal Credit Union, we help our members execute missions every day, like Operation
Earn cash back on tutus, dance lessons, and tiaras, so I can get a little more towards something for me.
or Operation
Pay for soccer, pay for piano, pay for dinner. Then use the cash back on something for mama.
The Cash Rewards card from Navy Federal gives you 1.5% cash back on purchases and has your back with fraud protection. Apply now. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Open to the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Insured by NCUA.
Indeed helps you hire great people fast. Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Looking for a color change? Ask Sherwin-Williams. We've made it easy to try and buy color. Preview paint colors in your home with our Color Snap app. Then visit swsamples.com to have color chips delivered to your door for free. Or order peel and stick samples to try on your wall. When you're ready to paint, shop online or stop by your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store and get everything you need.
The best biscuits in town, made from scratch. Buttermilk biscuits, sandwiches, and bite-sized snacks, sausage, ham, chicken, and many more varieties. Get them freshly baked or pre-cooked and bake them yourself. Where? Nowhere else but the Biscuit Shop, Essex Square Shopping Center, Northport. TheBiscuitLady.com.
Recently, Total Wireless helped Garrett Dvorak throw a virtual baby shower for his wife, Ellie.
Just to see everyone's expressions, I don't have words for it.
Because when you move to Total Wireless, you can get amazing devices on 5G. And with unlimited plans starting at $25 a month per line for 4 lines, you could save up to $80 per month.
Total Wireless, you guys pulled through.
Total Wireless, do amazing. 5G capable device and SIM required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. Savings claim made when compared to 4-line postpaid plans of the leading carrier for 2021. See terms and conditions at TotalWireless.com.
At Navy Federal Credit Union, we help our members execute missions every day, like Operation
Earn cash back on tutus, dance lessons, and tiaras, so I can get a little more towards something for me.
or Operation
Pay for soccer, pay for piano, pay for dinner. Then use the cash back on something for mama.
The Cash Rewards card from Navy Federal gives you 1.5% cash back on purchases and has your back with fraud protection. Apply now. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Open to the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Insured by NCUA.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A mixture of clouds and sunshine, the chance of a few scattered showers and thunderstorms through the evening hours. The high today 87, cooler late tonight, the low 64. Beautiful tomorrow and Friday, sunny both days and not as humid. Highs between 86 and 89. I'm James Spain on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 87 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to Off the Edge on Tide 100.9.
Good final effort, Brian. I'm proud of you. That one's good.
I want you to guess the title of this very generic royalty-free heavy metal song.
Oh, I can only imagine how generic. Goodness, I don't know.
Give me a guess.
I'm trying to kind of think of like what the vibe is around. God, I just let me have it. Just let me have it.
Terminate.
There you go. Maybe we should throw that into, just sneak that into the R&B playlist of Will Anderson. Let him get just a tad bit more actually hyped. Can you imagine? Look, I mean, just my perspective, right? Because that's what I did when I played. Heavy metal to the extreme to try to get hyped for the game. Can you imagine Will Anderson if he was like hyped and not mellowed out? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Just keep doing what you're doing, Will. Just keep doing what you're doing. In the NFL, the New Orleans Saints Green Bay Packers game, which was scheduled to take place inside of Caesars Stadium, which is still weird to me. Caesars Superdome is what I should say, down in New Orleans. But due to Hurricane Ida, that game has been moved out of Louisiana into Jacksonville, into the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium. And that's where the Saints will open up their season against the Green Bay Packers. Looking beyond that into teams that actually have Alabama players on their roster, because Green Bay no longer has an Alabama player on their roster. The Saints also do not. Both teams cutting the one and only players that they had on their rosters, and the Saints only had an Alabama guy for all of about 3 days. I don't think Damian Square ever even got a chance to practice with the New Orleans Saints. But after it was all said and done, Alabama, 62 contract players, 55 active players across 27 franchises. The Seattle Seahawks, the New Orleans Saints, San Francisco 49ers, Green Bay Packers, and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers is a technicality because Cole Mazza is the only player on their roster from Alabama. The long snapper, however, he is on injured reserve, doesn't count towards the final 53. The other four teams just straight up don't have Alabama players at all. And if you're curious as to who those 13 players that were cut for Alabama yesterday, you can check it out at tide109.com. But I'll let you know, Tony Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals, Ross Piersbacher of the Philadelphia Eagles, Christian Miller of the Carolina Panthers, HaHa Clinton Dix of the 49ers, Carl Tucker of the Miami Dolphins, Miller Forrestall of the Tennessee Titans, Gary Dieter of the Kansas City Chiefs, Shaheem Carter of the Houston Texans, Lester Cotton of the Las Vegas Raiders, Jared Maiden of the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners had to release 2 guys to get to that point where they had no Alabama guys. And then arguably the big 3 surprises. I mentioned Damian Square, just been with the Saints for about 3 days due to the hurricane. Didn't really even get a chance to show up for them. Ryan Anderson was actually cut by the New York Giants. He was suspended he is suspended for the first 6 games of the year, so he would not have counted towards the final 53 roster for the Giants. But I guess after all the headache, and not all of the headache was his fault, he came into camp with an injury, was on the PUP list, wasn't ready to go. When he was finally ready to go, due to language in his contract, he was released and re-signed the next day. He finally gets out there for practice, and within 2 days, he's suspended for the first 6 games of the year. So the Giants, who really lack in the pass rushing department, I guess they wanted to see out of Azeez Ojulari and pair him up with another former Georgia edge rusher on the other side, Lorenzo Carter, and go to work with that and put Ryan Anderson on the waiver wire as well. Or actually, he's a straight up free agent because he's a vested veteran. And J.K. Scott was also cut by the Green Bay Packers. Believe it or not, J.K. Scott, whether in net average or in net yards, not net, in total yards, total average, total net, whatever, all the punting stats that you could possibly think of, even though J.K. Scott holds the actual record for the Green Bay Packers in punt average, in total yards average was about 44.6, which is not terrible. J.K. Scott never ranked higher in his net yardage or in his total yardage than 19th in the NFL in his 3 seasons in Green Bay. Came into the camp, having to fight to earn, the right to be the punter for the Green Bay Packers. And he did not play well enough. And the Packers Tuesday traded for Buffalo Bills backup punter Corey Bojorquez, I'm assuming. And that was all she wrote for J.K. Scott, who is now a free agent in the NFL.
You hear that? It's the sound of the spike train going past. I will no longer ever think about wearing Packers green and gold because they let go of my boy J.K.
I mean, J.K. didn't play well.
I don't care.
It is very shocking. I would be surprised, though, if this was the end of the line for J.K. Scott. He's still a great punter, great athlete as well. But a lot of these guys will find themselves back on practice squads. That's starting to happen a little bit with some teams that release players a little bit earlier in the day. They're starting to put guys on their practice squads, but most of these guys have to clear waiver wire before they can get on the practice squads. But fully expect guys like Christian Miller, Ross Bierbacher, Miller Forrestall, Garrett Dieter, Lester Cotton, Jared Maiden. Those guys will most likely land on somebody's practice squad, if not for the practice squad of the teams that released them. Keep in mind, Garrett Dieter's been on the practice squad for the Chiefs for the past 4 or 5 years. Miller Forrestall fully expected to go back to the Tennessee Titans after having a surprisingly really good camp. One of those guys that was really, really overlooked. More in the NFL, Irv Smith Jr. Season is probably over. Had surgery on his meniscus, which was first expected to just keep him out for the first few weeks of the start of the season. But now with the surgery, it could be 4 to 5 months. That may end his season. He hasn't been put on IR yet. But another guy that's been put on IR, Thomas Fletcher with the Carolina Panthers, long snapper, the third long snapper in the NFL, alongside Cole Mazza and Carson Tinker. He's now the only one due to technicality, but he is on injured reserve. He also counts towards or does not count towards the 53-man roster there in Carolina. Brown on their roster, so they still have somebody from the Alabama Crimson Tide. I said I'd talk about it a little bit. We still got a little bit of time, but when you look at the Miami Hurricanes on defense, the middle of the field, man, those linebackers, they're not good. Miami Hurricanes analysts, Miami Hurricanes fans, they'll tell you, these linebackers, you ain't got Ray Lewis back there, man. you ain't got somebody that's a quarter of Ray Lewis back there. Shaquille Quarterman was probably a quarter of Ray Lewis, and you ain't got nobody as good as Shaquille Quarterman was a few years ago for the Hurricanes. How do you attack that? I say play action. I say take advantage with Cameron Latu and Jaleel Billingsley. Use the tight ends to do that. You've got great tight ends, and that allows Bryce Young to not have to worry about finding, serious lanes. He can kind of put the ball up high on those linebackers, and if they're not good, they're not good. Follow that up with the run. Use the pass to open the run. Get those linebackers on their heels with these tight ends, and then attack with the running game with a guy like Brian Robinson, a guy like Trey Sanders early, and then late with Chase McClellan and Roydell Williams. Let the speed take care of itself. That's the way I see it. It's just an opinion, but we'll see what happens in 3 days when the Alabama Crimson Tide take on the Miami Hurricanes in Atlanta, Georgia, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's getting close. Oh, it's getting close. And I'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. to continue to break it down. We'll have a great analyst from inside the U at 247 Sports tomorrow as well. The Jay Barker Show is up next. Ryan Fowler in the game, 2 to 6. Tied tonight from 6 to 7 in the final edition of Hop On with Horn with Bryant Horn tonight from 7 to 8. I'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. here on Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Thank you for listening to Off the Edge.
Can't tell you how proud I am of our players, our team.
Join us every Monday from 8 to 10 and Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and the Tide 100.9 app.
Crimson Tide Today is presented by Tuscaloosa, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports, and it's brought to you by Conecuh Sausage, a true Southern flavor since 1947, and the official smoked sausage of the Crimson Tide. Visit online at ConecuhSausage.com. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Alabama football released a depth chart for Saturday's game against Miami. At quarterback, sophomore Bryce Young is listed as the starting quarterback, and he shared his thoughts as we get closer to kickoff.
Yeah, everyone is obviously, everyone's really excited to get season started. You go through a long off season of going against each other, and it's great to, finally be able to play other people and start a game plan and prepare. It's super exciting overall, me individually and us as a team, just for us to start the season and for us to, try to put it together and start game planning and start working towards an opponent. Yeah, we're all excited about it.
I'll have more in a moment.